Hi, my name's Bruce Music, and whether or not you're in a relationship, the next 15 minutes are going to be important for you because you're about to learn secrets that most smart people never learn about what it takes to make romantic relationships really work. We're going to take a look at why you've attracted your romantic partner, and if you're single right now, why you've attracted the romantic partners you have in the past, and it's not what you think it's going to be. We're also going to take a look at the 5 stages that your romantic relationship is going to need to go through if you want to create long-term connection, stability, security, and love. And we're also going to look at which stage you're most likely to get stuck at and what to do if you do. And then finally, we're going to take a look at what to do once the blissful feelings of falling in love begin to fade, as they so often do in long-term romantic relationships. So if you and I haven't met before, I'm Bruce, and I'm originally from South Africa, currently living in the Caribbean, hence the palm trees behind me. And I'm really passionate about helping smart people like you build unbreakable bonds with your romantic partner and helping you experience all the joy, the connection, the intimacy, and the freedom that a romantic relationship that works has to offer without settling, without compromising, and without losing yourself in the process. So follow me inside and let's get going. If you're anything like me, then your relationship probably started out as a series of magical moments with your heart pounding and your spirit soaring and your stomach doing flip-flops just at the thought of seeing him or her, right? You felt so loved and you felt so wanted and appreciated and needed, right? And you were joined at the hip. And then one day, a terrible thing began to happen. That feeling of falling in love began to fade away. And you started to realize just how different you were from your partner, and perhaps how much of yourself you'd sacrificed in order to be in the relationship with your partner. And now the little things that you used to love about your partner begin to annoy you. And before you know it, you're arguing about the dumbest things. And you've entered what we call the power struggle stage. And what do we do when we enter the power struggle stage? Well, in order to get our needs met, and in order to have that feeling of being in love again, we figure we better go about changing our partner to be more like they used to be and to be more like us, right? Does this sound familiar? If you've ever tried to change anybody before, you've probably noticed that it never works. So both you and your partner are equally trying to change each other during this power struggle stage. And before you know it, the relationship that was once the safe haven of love now becomes this place that's full of uncertainty and where you feel like you have to walk on eggshells around your partner and where you don't feel accepted just for being the person that you are. And when this happens, we begin to feel disconnected. And once we begin to feel disconnected, we usually do one of 2 things. We either become needy and try and reconnect with our partner, or we become shut down and need space and want to withdraw. Does any of this sound familiar? Am I close? Well, if you can relate to anything I've just shared, I've got 2 things I want to say to you. One is you're normal and it's not your fault. Every relationship goes through this power struggle stage when you leave the romance stage on the way to further stability. You can't go around it. There's only one way, and that's through it. And 2, there's hope. Paradoxically, in order to learn to love, you need to fall out of love first. And this is just a natural stage you're going through. And if you educate yourself about how to get through the power struggle stage, on the other side is a deeper, more mature opportunity for romance, intimacy, and connection that's way beyond anything you could have experienced back here in the romance stage. So how is it that we can go from, on one hand, being head over heels in love with our partner, to, on the other hand, feeling like our partner's causing us pain in the relationship? One reason could be that relationships go through 5 predictable stages, as identified by Dr. Susan Campbell in her study of hundreds of couples. And the first stage is called the romance stage. When we fall in love with the single most incompatible person for us in the universe, the person most capable of causing us the most pain and least capable of meeting our primary human needs. Why? It turns out that we human beings are no different from anything else in nature. We're either growing or we're dying. And of course, nature wants us to grow. So nature makes us fall in love with the most incompatible person in the universe, the person most able and capable of making our worst nightmares come true. Why? Because that person is going to be the most capable of pushing our buttons and forcing us to grow and expand in our lives. So they're the perfect person to ensure our growth. But if we knew this person was the most incompatible person in the universe for us, we would run as fast as possible for the hills, right? So nature drugs us. Yep, that's the only way we could possibly fall in love with the most incompatible person in the universe. Your brain releases a series of chemicals like phenethylamine and oxytocin and dopamine that have you fall in love, so you can only see your partner through rose-tinted glasses. You only focus in the romance stage on how you and your partner are the same, and you ignore your differences. You'll do anything to please your partner and have them like you, because you're high on drugs. If you weren't, you'd run a mile, right? What happens is that this drug-induced high lasts for anywhere between 2 months and 2 years, and probably on average 4 to 6 months, before it begins to wear off. And when it begins to wear off, you have what I like to call a love hangover. And you wake up in bed with the most incompatible person in the universe, and you go, ah! And the power struggle stage begins. And this is where the highest percentage of first marriage divorces happen, usually around the 3 to 4 year into the relationship mark. What ends up happening is that once your brain stops releasing the oxytocin and the dopamine and all those beautiful drugs, you wake up and you realize just how much of yourself you've sacrificed in order to be in a relationship with this person, and now you want yourself back. You want to reclaim your independence and your autonomy. So you enter into this kind of tug of war, this battle of wills with your partner, trying to be in relationship and yet still be independent. And what happens is, because most couples, 99% of them I reckon, are not educated around how to navigate conflict, how to actually communicate and how to deal with this power struggle stage, they end up dealing with it in one of 2 dysfunctional ways. They either break up or they survive. The breakup route usually happens with people who have been kind of serial daters. They go round and round and round in the romance stage, falling in love with that feeling of being in love and the drug-induced high of being a drug addict. And I like to say the only difference between a drug addict and falling in love is that falling in love is legal. And they fall in love with this feeling of being high on love, and then they end up being serial daters. The minute they hit the power struggle stage, they run away from their relationship and find the next one. The second way people deal with the power struggle stage without actually moving beyond it is to survive, in that they usually resign themselves to compromise or sacrifice, and they give up what they really want in order to be with their partner. Of course, the relationship emotionally dies. They die internally. I've been there and done this in the past too. And then their sex life dies as well, and often this ends up in infidelity, or the partner's just eventually growing apart and the relationship breaking up in the end, or the relationship surviving a lifetime of pain. When the power struggle happened to me in my relationship, I was caught completely off guard. We'd gone so quickly in a matter of months from being head over heels in love to being in conflict and fighting with each other. It seems we couldn't have a conversation that just felt connected without it being blown out of proportion into an argument. And I couldn't understand it, because I'd been a seminar leader who had helped thousands of people all around the world transform their lives. And yet I couldn't seem to accomplish this simple task of getting the woman that I loved to respond to me in a way that had us feel connected and in love with each other. And then something completely unexpected happened. She left me and she moved to another country. And I was shocked and caught completely off guard. And I decided that this woman was my soulmate, and I was going to do whatever I could to get her back. So, being the geek that I am, I went and I studied what successful couples who had gotten through the power struggle stage had done to build a lifetime of love. I started studying communication skills. I started studying conflict resolution. And I came up with an alternative to the first 2 options of breaking up or just surviving. And I like to call this taking the third option, the option that most couples don't even know about, let alone take. Taking the third option involves learning how to love consciously. It involves, instead of seeing your partner as the most incompatible person in the world, you start to see them as the most qualified person to have you grow. Instead of your relationship just being something that makes you happy and secure, you transform your relationship into a crucible that allows you to grow and mature as human beings together. And in order to accomplish all of this, you're going to need to learn some skills that you definitely weren't taught by your parents or by your teachers at school. Certainly, that's what I had to do. It took us 6 months of negotiating our differences before she phoned me up one day and said, "Bruce, nobody makes me feel as loved and as accepted as you do. I love you and I want to spend the rest of my life with you." And as you can imagine, that was the happiest day of my life. And we didn't get there by accident. Do we still fight? Do we still have arguments? Of course we do. But they never turn into the mudslinging matches that they used to. They never turn into name calling. They turn into opportunities for us to become more intimately connected. Through every one of our arguments now, we're able to turn it around and move through them so that that cycle of repeating the same arguments over and over again stops happening and we start to get arguments complete. So once you've learned to fight in a way that has both of you win, you enter into the stability stage. And this is a beautiful stage where you can take a deep breath and relax as the romance from the romance stage returns, but in a deeper, more mature way. And all that connectedness returns. And you realize that you're never going to change your partner, and they're never going to change you, and you've given up even trying to do so, and you're happy to accept them just the way that they are. And in this stage, if you master the communication skills and you learn mutual respect, you move on to the next stage, which is the commitment stage. If you don't master those skills and you don't learn that mutual respect, you go back to the power struggle stage, round and round and round and round until you die. Not a pretty picture, but that's how most relationships end up, and that's why we have a divorce rate that's higher than 50%. So let's take a look at the commitment stage. In this stage, you choose your partner just as they are. You begin to experience a beautiful balance of fun, power, love, belonging, and freedom. And you can honestly say to your partner, "I love loving you just as you are, flaws and all." And this is the first stage where you're really ready to make a commitment and get married, or do whatever your version of that is, perhaps do a spiritual partnership commitment. Unfortunately, most couples get married or commit to each other in the romance stage when they're completely high on drugs and they have no idea who each other are, and they have no idea how to navigate through conflict when it happens. And then they wake up one day and they're trapped in this marriage, and before they know it, they've gotten kids and they don't know how to navigate it. So this stage of the commitment stage is the first stage where you're really ready to make an explicit commitment to your partner. And if you do, and you do it correctly, you end up moving to the next stage, which is called the bliss stage. And in the bliss stage, your relationship as a third unit actually becomes a gift that goes out into the world and makes a difference together. Perhaps you're working on a project together. Perhaps you're doing something in your community together. Perhaps you start a business together. Whatever the case may be, your relationship serves the world as a gift and you get to make a difference together. So there you have it, the 5 stages of relationship: romance, power struggle, stability, commitment, and bliss. Now, which stage are you at? Tell the truth to yourself. Where are you?